He's a strategic technology leader and IT consultant, currently spearheading digital transformation. Vivekanandhan R.
Close to 40% of the tickets were related to password reset or the level 1 issues that comes to the help desk.
In your 20 plus year journey, have you ever faced a moment that made you think this is not how it should be done?
Tell the leadership these are the risks involved and provide the solution rather than just highlighting the risk and say ask for sign off from them.
Hello everyone and welcome back to FaceTime with Leaders powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I am Tanay All and today we are talking about something that every company lives and breathes by: technology. Not the buzzwords, not the cloud or automation, but the invisible engine that keeps global businesses running 24/7. And to decode this world, we have with us a leader who's been running this engine quietly, effectively, and always 2 steps ahead of disruption. He's a strategic technology leader and IT consultant, currently spearheading digital transformation and infrastructure modernization initiatives through his firm VIVA Solutions, helping organizations accelerate their cloud journeys, strengthen cybersecurity postures, and reimagine the digital workspace. Previously, he served as Senior Vice President, IT Infrastructure Support and IT Solutions at FirstSource Solutions Limited, where he led IT operations for over 30,000 users across 20 plus global centers. Under his leadership, FirstSource built hybrid cloud ecosystems, zero trust architectures, and AI set new standards in efficiency and reliability. With over 2 decades of proven success across global IT delivery, service excellence, and digital transformation, he continues to shape how technology powers modern enterprises from strategy to execution. Please welcome Vivekanandhan R, founder of VIVA Solutions and an accomplished IT infrastructure visionary. Sir, it's such a pleasure to have you with us on FaceTime with Leaders today. How are you?
Hello Tanay. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here on FaceTime with Leaders powered by Directors Institute. It's a great opportunity for me to step back and reflect on the past 2 decades, in fact, of my experience, and look at and as you rightly mentioned, look at the invisible engine that powers the global IT landscape today. And obviously, with so much happening across the business in terms of your hybrid workforce, cloud complexity that we have across multiple clouds, hybrid cloud, and also the cyber security which runs side by side, right? So all these things put together, we'll try to look at how we do behind the scenes, how we run IT, and the most important factor that how I look at IT is to look at technology as a source of trust and resilience rather than a bottleneck. That's where I want everybody to look at.
Yeah. Right.
So again, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure, sir. Sir, we would love to start with knowing a little bit more about your journey in your own words. Like, what were 1 or 2 defining moments that shaped you as an IT leader, or maybe a challenge that tested you and a decision that you're still proud of today?
So with my journey in technology, I would look at it in 2 phases, right? The way it started with my personal experience, and then after a certain point in time, over a period of time as an experienced professional, what I went through. When I started my career journey in Genpact, where I worked, so I was supporting global GE customers, looking at application support, right? So when that happened, one night we saw a critical application, it was failing. So we had tickets coming in, a lot of volumes of tickets coming in. End users were complaining. So, people started, our IT team started troubleshooting. The incident war room happened. Now, as a tech support analyst during that time, although we followed certain steps in terms of L1, L2 troubleshooting, the initial triages that happened, but I wanted to uh, dig deep into the code, right? Analyze the code and logs and see where it went wrong. And finally, we figured out what the issue was, and we were able to quickly sort out that issue. When that happened, that moment, and then you see, the end users, their feel in terms of, oh, hey, the system is up now. So when the system or the application came up, right? So um, the relief from end users, the confirmation that end users gave us, saying that the application started working, that is when I started realizing that IT is it wasn't just an IT. It is, we are an enabler for the business, right? So uh, that is the starting point, and the next big challenge, or I would say learning, that I had in my journey was in FirstSource when I was a vice president of IT infrastructure. We did a merger and acquisition, right? Acquired a business. Um, After that acquisition, there was, we need to do a IT integration that happened. IT integration, so to say, it is not that simple because you have two entirely different organizations using many different tools, right? Right from the OS or your network layer or your applications, etc., and the support systems as well. So, but you have a critical time frame within which you will have to do this integration, because the business or the leadership wanted to have synergies between these two organizations, right, and reap the benefits. That's where it is. So it was a challenge for us. The teams were stretched, and what I was looking at is, okay, so we need to do a standardization here. Let's do that. And we said both the organizations will work on one single platform, which is the Freshdesk IT service management tool, where the ticket SLA, KPI, all that will be tracked, okay, and the responses will be tracked. That's how it is. And second is one single platform where you migrate all the end users of the acquired company. The access is going to be simple. On cloud, you spin up VMs. That's so easy to do it, right? So that way we were able to onboard more users onto our domain. That is one. And then from a security perspective, more than changing the entire network strategy, because it is going to be done on a phased manner, what we did was we looked at putting a zero trust between both the organization with using our we used 𝐒𝐞𝐳, Prisma Access, and Zscaler. So using these tools, we had a zero trust between these networks, and we also took care of the compliance part in terms of HIPAA, HITRUST, and ISO. So these are few challenges that taught me in terms of what an M&A testers, what a team goes through, what as a leader I need, I learned from that. So these are the two examples that I want to quote for my in my journey.
Yeah, yeah. And seeing problems on ground and then scaling technology is probably the
Yeah,
best way to understand how it's going to help you, where it's going, what is the future path.
yeah,
So now you've led IT infrastructure for tens of thousands of users, driven hybrid cloud transformations and unified global service delivery, all while keeping uptime at 99.99%, which is no small feat. Like most companies struggle to keep tech scalable and stable. So when an enterprise going fast with new clients, global expansions, mergers, IT can easily become chaotic. But you've done the opposite, built calm out of the chaos. How do you even start designing a technology operating model that scales seamlessly across continents without losing control or culture?
It's a great question, Tanay. So the example that I quoted previously, right? So during the merger and acquisition. So that's an example that I can quote here as well. Um, See, the simple principle or the framework that we follow, right, that I follow is centralize, standardize, and then automate, right? This is a simple formula that you need to do. Centralize is something which you centralize your support, right? Because when you operate 20 plus countries, you have 30,000 plus users spread across geography and doing remote work. So that's going to be a real challenge for the IT folks, right? So unless you centralize the support, your governance is centralized, having multiple products, multiple OEMs or vendors that you have. So although the support can be distributed between geography, meaning US team, certain people can support from US, right? So all that can happen, but the governance of that, the tracking of SLAs and business and client is going to happen from a central location. That is one. The second is standardized your support. Um, which is like your you call it as a GCC today, your global command center, which is going to be your nerve that we call in IT. So you have your global command center here, put all your support teams under one umbrella, right? Your DevOps team, your incident response, your problem management, change, application support. So all that is going to be one, and these team are going to play look at the same playbook. They're not going to deviate from that. It's going to be a standard no method that they're going to follow. So it is going to be a standardized support there. And also when you look at products as such, when you roll out, because it's going to be different geographies, right? So you'll have to standardize the products as well. We call it as a enterprise platform or the enterprise um, application, so to say. There are few applications which are common across the end users, although it may be you will have grades for each level. But certain applications are standard across, like your M365, for example, your Zoom or whatever Teams that we use, and then your ITSM tool like Freshdesk, right? So Azure or AWS that we use. All those are going to be combined, and we'll have one single build for, and that will be managed by this central team. That is what it is. And the last thing is to automate, because you have you're not going to have hundreds of people in your team to support the entire geography or your entire 300 plus users. You're going to have a minimum number of people. The only way to do that without much issues is going to, you have to automate, right? So automation in the sense we have done that. Um, what we did was using Freshdesk, we automate that ITSM tool to look at reducing the number of tickets that come into the ticketing tool. So we saw about 35% of the tickets going down, right? This is done through automation, um, and we'll dig more into that at later at a later stage.
Yeah, very well said. I think when you define it like those three steps, it just becomes so much more clearer that how you can solve such a big issue. It seems at the outset, but if you break it down into like simpler steps, you understand it so much better. So one of the most striking achievements under your leadership was the 35% reduction in service desk tickets and 20% drop in L1 volumes while modernizing IT through automation and AI. Normally automation is seen as cold, but you made it human centric. How did you strike the balance between automation and experience, making tech smarter without losing the human touch?
So yeah, we saw around close to 40% of the tickets that were coming to the service desk. And these tickets were handled by our level one team. Uh, they were they were burned out with so many password reset cases, VPN reset cases, users forgetting the passwords over the weekend. These are the typical cases that happen. Um, and it was frustrating because when you're a technical guy and you want to do something else, right? But then you are doing glorified, triaging or resetting the password. That's what you're doing all day. So this was a challenge that we had, and what we did was we tried to automate that using Freshdesk with their AI-driven service desk that we had. So we put in a bot. So when we decided we want to do that, we went to the business for a buy-in, saying, "Hey, this is what we are going to do. This is going to have certain kind of an impact, and we want to keep it posted." The immediate response from the business team was, "Hey, what do you want to do?" Right? We always wanted a human to take the call, pick up the call, and answer. Right? That's the quickest way to do it. If you put a bot, what will happen? The end user has to learn to communicate with the bot, right? That's important. So we said, okay, we'll take care of that requirement. And the bot was trained and it was deployed. Once the bot was deployed, we faced issues. The feedback that we got from the business was, it is like a robot. I'm talking to a robot. It doesn't feel like, it's a human
Yeah,
centric approach, right?
yeah,
So that was a learning. And what we did, certain things the bot will do. And if there is a requirement for say kind of an empathy from the end user, you feel what the end user is end user wants, or probably end user is frustrated and he wants to talk to a human, right? So there you do the deflection, and what that means is this stack will give the feed that agent, human agent, in terms of what the issues are or what is the requirement from the end user, so that you don't need to start from the scratch, right? So it is like helping the human agent to troubleshoot issues, right? So that is where it is. That's where now we use this automation, and by this we had seen almost 35% of the tickets were reduced from the help desk, right? And we also train the end users in terms of how to use this tool, how to make use of this AI module on the Freshdesk side.
yeah, no. I think listening to the problems at the heart is that becomes so important, because sometimes we just ignore that and go on our own journey of technology. But like sometimes we hear what people are saying, it can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Sir, you've also been deeply involved in cloud modernization and digital workplace transformation, from Azure to and AWS to VDA and Zero Trust. In your view, what's the next frontier of IT infrastructure? Like, where do you see the future of workplace technology heading, especially with hybrid work and cybersecurity evolving side by side?
I think the current landscape that we have today, right, is so you rightly said it is we are already on cloud, we are already on hybrid cloud. Most of the organizations use that, and and we use majorly Azure, AWS, virtual machines, or the VMs, right? And for all your Office, MS Office suite that we had, it's already on cloud. And similarly for if you say Gmail or anything for that matter. Now, the next step in that journey is going to be um, we touched upon that point in terms of automating our service desk, right? Which was the starting point rather. Now the next step is to automate your IT operations, your core IT operations in terms of your core network, your identity access, etc. Right? So today, if you look at it, assume that we are an end user, and the access to certain application today, it has to be given at each layer, right? So at application, at network, every layer it has to be given. Now, what will happen in future is it will be automated, and through a secure tool like your zero trust, your Prisma Access or Keto or Zscaler, what will happen is the identity part and the Azure AD for that matter, identity part and access to a specific end user, that will be taken care of at that level, right? So if you are assuming if Tanai is in a location, you're on a holiday, you're in South Africa or somewhere where the organization is not operating from there, okay, and you're not supposed to access certain application or your client application, that will be automated and the access will be removed till you come back to your origin country or origin location, right? So that's where it is going to be.
Very well said, sir. Okay, sir, now time for a very own rapid fire round. Few quick questions and all we request you are quick answers. So are you ready? What's one thing people often get wrong about IT leaders?
One thing people get wrong about IT leaders is I think they look at as a pure technical people who talk only jargons and we don't really can't do anything else apart from talking to the servers and network, right? So that's what I feel. But in today's scenario, modern IT, it is like, we take care of the governance, communication, and also we are aligning with the business, right?
Yeah,
So that is where I think the modern IT leaders are today.
yeah, very true. If you had 1 extra hour in the day, no meetings, no messages, how would you spend it?
Probably I would be reading some books about leadership framework, um, organizational design, etc. That's what I would be doing.
Lovely. What's a leadership lesson you learned the hard way that you wish others could skip?
I think one lesson that we touched upon, and mostly it happens in every organization today, is um, you will have to be agile, right? The speed, you will have to be agile, etc. The speed, it kills the alignment. Your thought, how you want. Um, you're here only to help the business, right?
Yeah,
So you're we spoke about this CSA. I think that is important. If you have to implement that, um, uh, then obviously you will have to take a step back and look at, okay, I'll be agile, but there are certain things which needs to happen, right? Certain procedures or certain steps that needs to happen. If that is not there, then it is a risk of doing business. That's how I look at it.
yeah. You can instantly master one skill outside work, which can be anything like cooking, coding, cricket. What's your pick?
I already love cooking, right? So I already do cooking at home or whenever we meet, the friends meet, because I find it is quite interesting and probably it is similar to what we do in our job, right?
Yeah,
With you have all the raw materials and then try to do something interesting out of it.
yeah,
That's what the tech guys do, and that's what these chefs also do. That's so I can relate to that.
yeah. If we opened your Spotify right now, what's the last track we could find?
It'll always be Ilayaraja songs.
Lovely. What's your guilty pleasure that keeps you sane after a long day of network firefights?
I would love to spend time with my dog or probably watch a thriller movie.
Okay. If your 25-year-old self walked into this interview right now, what advice would you give him?
25-year-old self. I think probably I would advise think like a probably a senior IT person, senior IT manager, maybe a senior manager or
Yeah,
BGM,
yeah,
to look at a different perspective, right? So that is when you try to align with the business because unless and until you don't do that, you won't be able to know what the business wants.
yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, you are looking at only the system there.
yeah, very true. Okay, sir, that gets us to the end of a rapid fire round. Thank you so much. Now back to the slightly more serious questions.
Okay.
So let's zoom out for a little bit. Every industry has its gray zones, data breaches swept under the rug, shortcuts in compliance, or cost cuts that risk security. In your 20 plus year journey, have you ever faced a moment that made you think this is not how it should be done? And how did you handle it, and what did it teach you about ethics and technology leadership?
This is a good question. In fact, see this happens mostly during the M&A, and we touched upon that point also, right? So uh, during the merger, you would see a lot of stress there in terms of implementing or integrating the organizations quickly, right? And what it means is you'll have to compromise on certain stuff, and predominantly, if we have to compromise, it will be on more on the compliance factor or the security factor, right? So what happens there is you are at risk, um, meaning the company is at risk. You either don't get certified on your HITRUST, HIPAA, GDPR, whatever compliance that is entailed, you will have to do. The second thing is, the second is in terms of, uh, there is also a pressure from the business in terms of, the cost. Hey, we need to have synergy. We have acquired it. You need to move faster. That's what it is. So you will have to take a balance there. Either you will have to say, hey, this is the risk, and these are the options that you have, right? Or you ask someone to sign off on the risk. Okay, it is like ask someone to build a cat. This is a risk. Hey, you sign off. I'll go live. This is what will happen. Instead, what I did, pull out the risk log, identify the risk. This is what will happen, and put a project plan and say these are the things that are required for us to comply with these requirements, right? Like zero trust or implementing Azure VMs or M365 across all the acquired users, right? So at least the basic that you take care, and it is going to take, say, 6 months timeline or 8 months timeline to be precise, and then take buy-in from the senior leadership, right? And that is what happened after it was presented. The senior leadership approved the budget and said, please go ahead, right? So that's where I think you will have to strike a balance. You will have to. My point is you will have to. That's a learning from me, and you will have to speak out, tell the leadership these are the risks involved, and provide the solution rather than just highlighting the risk and say ask for sign off from them.
Yeah, yeah. Very true, sir. So you've been closely associated with Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. We would love to know what drew you to the institute and how has that experience shaped you personally and professionally.
I think this program with the Directors Institute, um, it gives me exposure to a lot of leaders, industry leaders, uh, interact with them, and then also give exposure to us in terms of simulation. What happens really in the boardroom, right? Although you are an IT leader today, but you handle the infrastructure bit, right? And probably part of the budget that discussion that you are in. But what happens at a boardroom level? So that opportunity, I think that simulation happens here with Directors Institute. There are a lot of learnings there and case studies. When you do case studies and all that, you'll get to learn a lot of things. Um, the second thing is, I think the key is to look at, see, coming from a IT background, uh, we don't look at the ESG part, right? Or rather, you don't, that's not 100% requirement from a ID perspective, right? So you purchase hardware, software, and all that, and then that's where it is, and then go implement it. But here you get to learn the entire ESG, what happens, what is the risk and how the sustainability and all that, right? What is ethical, what is non-ethical, and how businesses do it today, right? So all those things, that's a great learning, and I'm happy to be part of this Directors Institute, course.
Lovely, sir. Thank you so much for those kind words. Because this was a masterclass which was equal parts strategy, storytelling, and soul. You've shown us that technology leadership isn't just about uptime and dashboards, it's about people, purpose, and progress. So, thank you so much once again for taking us behind the scenes of what it actually takes to run global technology at scale with empathy, innovation, and ethics at core. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To everyone tuning in, if you care about digital transformation, today's episode just defined what it means to lead IT with impact. Sir, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us on FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your anchor, Tanay All, signing off. And until next time, stay curious, stay secure, lead with purpose, and of course, have fun in your journey. Thank you so much.